Well, that wasn't worth the... Oof! 23 hours. I gotta pick tasks that waste less of my time. Hold on. Something is... wrong! James is...
Struggling? Yes. Just like when I was trying to write our Paper Mario Color Splash review.
Oh, this again.
What does that mean?
You always struggle trying to write reviews for these sorts of games.
Indie games?
Games that are fine, that don't do anything spectacularly, and things they try to do, they don't really pan out or end up failing. Color Splash, Tennis Aces, ARMS, those sorts of games.
Then you gotta help me, Andy, otherwise this review will sound like I have all this confidence in my project, all this love for the platform, but I make my point difficult to understand or I undermine the whole video.
Well, it sounds like you have an idea, and you kinda know how to execute it. So, here's what you're gonna do. Finish it. It'll be a piece you're proud of because it was a daunting task and you completed it. No matter how it sounds or how faulty the words end up, you will be proud of it. Now, tell us about Skellboy.
Skellboy is a game with impeccable presentation and an art style that will make you reminisce about better times. Times around the Nintendo 64/GameCube era, when the future looked bright for Paper Mario, when the world was simpler, when everything wasn't on fire, and things didn't exist! Sorry. Skellboy!
This game follows this character, who is able to interchange its head, torso, and feet parts with parts of other people, enemies, and, objects in encounters throughout the adventure. It even features a very Kirby-esque power get sound effect when you switch body parts. This, along with the look and feel of the game, just seems like a nod to better parts of games we love and go back to from time to time.
The feel and main character flippiness of the first two Paper Mario games.
The power get noise from Kirby. Let's say Return to Dreamland.
The real-time combat of Super Paper Mario.
And $20.
Looking at all this, I gotta say, we have a recipe for success as long as they take the better parts of these games and create something that can be valued at least $20.
But does it? Does it do right by all the things it unintentionally reminds us of?
Let's take a look.
The story. Ooh. The story of Skellboy is that an evil mage-like character has summoned an army of evil orc-like and zombie-like characters to attack a kingdom-like kingdom and prove its saviors are nothing more than, well, nothing. He sets out to do this by stealing a magical mace that has these powers and more. What is your job? Your job is to stop him first by coming to life, stealing bits of things and people to create your body, then escaping the castle confines you woke up in.
Your quest for the Blaze Mace will take you through a swamp, the inner castle, a dungeon, an even deeper dungeon, that same dungeon again but with the light turned off, a farm, an arena, and finally, a graveyard. Throughout these different environments are a handful of enemies, puzzles that equate to find button, push button, open path, and one absurdly powerful sword made of glass. This became my favorite weapon, but not because it killed things in one hit, but because it threw enemies into the air, causing them to land in glitched places or in water, which instantly disintegrates them.
The story is very cookie cutter and takes very few steps outside the norm. None of the characters are very memorable, and your character is very fluid due to its changing body parts. It's actually very hard to know who you really are. You're just this character who wakes up in the castle theater one day, nabs some body parts, and decides the kingdom is yours to save. The why is revealed later, but it just seems like a weird start considering what you learn about halfway into the game. All of this creates a story that is fine, nothing great, scratching the surface of good, but definitely not bad. No curveball plots, no super important details that change the whole game. It was fine.
Gameplay!
Oh!
The first half of this game is a straight line you walk with nothing amazing happening along the way. Yeah, I glitched my way through a boss fight, but I doubt they'll let that sit in the game for too long. But even if the first half of the game is a cakewalk, you will enjoy every single step you take because the game world is so vibrant and fun and intriguing to look at. You can tell actual love was put into the environments in this game.
It's too bad the set pieces get in the way more often than not, and 70% of each environment is there to act as an invisible wall as opposed to an alternate path you can traverse. Or it just doesn't exist, and you fall right through the world. To your death. Or you glitch through a wall and slide into oblivion, to your death. Or you get stuck on a candle you jumped on hoping for some sort of outcome, but you just end up with this happening, and you are forced to restart the game, causing you to die, to your death.
Skellboy is set in a world full of not only glitches, but lag. The game will lag at random times and there is no way to predict it. You could be in the middle of a combat with the Hell Knights and the game will lag. Unfortunately, this only stops you but not them, freeing them up to take a few extra hits before the game can catch up. This seems like a glaring issue that needed patching. Yes, they announced a new patch would be live in 2 weeks. The thing is, these glitches and this lag are all things that make the game, specifically the second half, very difficult to play. Less worth my time and all around bad.
What we're saying is, this game should have delayed the release again. Skellboy should have been a mid-February to mid-March release instead of a January release. This would have given the team much more time to find and patch out these glaring issues and fix the glitches.
Or add in just one more f***ing spot to find the light up pumpkin head item.
Or that, I guess. The gameplay would have flowed so much better and been less laggy if the game had taken more time. We wouldn't have minded, and neither would the rest of Skellboy's fanbase. Were we really ready to take up pitchforks and torches when they delayed release in December? Then we shouldn't have been now.
Even with the glitches, the lag, and the wildly fluctuating difficulty curve after the first half of the gameplay is still just fine. Still scratching good, but not standing in a bad spot either. It's just okay. Combat! Clang.
Clang.
This is simultaneously one of the most and least satisfying parts of this game. On one hand, your weapons are some of the few things that don't obey the 4 sprites each character has for facing left, right, up, and down. They also help you denote your direction in case you get confused, which allowed them to create things like throwing your spear and using a charge attack for your club.
Then you hit the second half of the game, and it introduces enemies that can throw things at you with near deadbeat accuracy. These guys are called deadbeats. They have impeccable accuracy even over walls and invisible barriers. It also introduces orcs, which can throw bombs at you and use clubs, and Medusa heads. Both of these enemy types have their own incredulous annoyances attached to them, but that's part of the list of annoyances in the second half of the game.
Combat can sometimes feel fluid and as if you're doing damage to your enemies. It feels fine, again not great and not bad for what it is, but sometimes you're flailing your sword around not entirely sure what you're hitting or even if you're hitting it. One of the biggest issues this game has is hit detection. You will take many more hits than you think you're going to take, most of which take away more than one square of damage and will result in an untimely and unforeseen death. Death, which in this game will respawn you at your last activated save point with all your upgrades and body parts, but you may have to traverse a large portion of the game to get back to where you died.
The combat, combined with the lag and the randomly difficult portions of this game, make it a difficult walk during the second half of Skellboy. Yes, we keep saying second half because it's true. The first half was a great experience that introduced us to the world of Skellboy and all these somewhat quirky characters, and while somewhat laggy and glitchy, was still fun to play, and the difficulty curve was enough for anyone to handle. Then the second half came barreling in and really emphasized the problems in the first half of the game. It pressed the boundaries the game could handle and not always in a good way, and it really showed the ripped seams this game had yet to patch.
Specifically during the arena boss fight. I won by circumstance because one of the 3 parts kept getting hurt by the second part, and the first part died because it got stuck in a wall, so I just popped all the explosives he couldn't throw over the invisible barrier he was stuck in. This is where the combat showed its strengths and what the bosses could do, and what you could do as a character with no dodge, no block, and no run faster button, but it also showed the weaknesses in the system itself. The fact the fight was too big for the arena and the boss died to circumstance.
All of this together creates another just fine experience in combat. Not great, not bad, just fine.
Final notes.
Whee! All in all, Skellboy is an okay game. It's definitely not as flawed and poor and rushed as A Knight's Tale, but doesn't scratch the itch that others thought it would. It's a game that desperately needed more time to fix the bugs though, and we would have been fine with that.
But instead of flipping off that dark dungeon sequence, or the 2 locations of the light up pumpkin that are one-hit armor pieces that you have to drag through a field of birds and a dungeon full of bats, let's suggest ways they can improve Skellboy.
First and foremost, increase the brightness in the darker areas of your game. Yes, the dark dungeon hangs on not being able to see anything, but no one would be mad if you let us actually see things in that part, or the whole dungeon beforehand, or the graveyard, or the sewers. We shouldn't have to run our Switch's battery life out increasing and decreasing screen brightness because the brightness of the environment is just too darn low. Or put an option to increase overall brightness throughout the game. That would help.
Second, an inventory. There are many points in the game where you must give up your torso, your head, or your feet to take on a different bit to solve a puzzle, leaving your more useful bit behind to be forgotten forever. If you had any sort of inventory to allow us to carry even one more of each body part, that would decrease frustration in this game tenfold. If you're pointing out the inventory would defeat the purpose of the sewer ghost thing, would it really make you that angry to not have to do that and instead switch to your other head, torso, and boots in your inventory? Unless the stuff the ghost stole is super important, then just get it back. At least you don't have to listen to the jumping sound effects so many times.
Third, and finally, Add the pumpkin armor pieces you can find in the game to the armory you can access. This would definitely cut down on frustration during the sewer and dark dungeon portions of this game because of the locations of those armories. Again, yes, it would defeat the purpose of parts of those dungeons, but again, we ask, would that really make you angrier than having to do those parts of the game normally? We doubt that.
Skellboy is a fine game. It's not great, it's not bad. It walks a fine line between those two words, and it does it in a way that will garner your attention, but not much more than that. It does nothing out of the ordinary and is aesthetically pleasing to look at. We do, however, suggest waiting to pick this game up until a few more patches and updates come out that fix the glitches and lag in the game. Maybe mid-March would be a good time to grab this title. There will be a few patches up by then, and that should make for an overall better gaming experience.
Huh. And you typed all that with your face?
I'm proud.
Good. Now put it out on the internet and get ready for a lot of people to hate it.
Don't worry, I'll just deal with it the same way I always do.
How's that?
Thank you for watching, everyone. We hope you enjoyed our review of Skellboy. Do you agree with us? Let us know in the comments. Do you disagree with us? Be civil in the comments. Be sure to follow us for more reviews and more cool stuff. Alright, Skellboy responsibly. Bye.